Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special episode of the iWorkinSport live interview. So this week, we're presenting the short series called Meet the Programs, in which a selection of our academic partners will present their courses and answer your questions. Those are programs that will be at the upcoming iWorkinSport Education Virtual Expo, which will happen next week on Wednesday. Where is it? Oh, here it is. And as well on November the 3rd. So next Wednesday and the Wednesday after, that's online. So if you want to connect in real time with the admissions teams and with alumni from some of the best sports management programs in the world, register for free and attend for free. The link is in the description. One news that we published or announced recently is that iWorkinSport will be offering a scholarship to one of the attendees who applies and get accepted to enroll in one of those programs. It's a scholarship up to 5,000 euros. So if the course is cheaper than that, it will be a full scholarship, otherwise a partial one. There's details about that, how you can participate, but basically if you go to our event and then you apply to a course and you're accepted, you're entitled to that scholarship. If there's more than one that are accepted, then we'll draw a winner for that. Anyway, register. There's a link in the description, and we can talk more about that later too. By the way, I mean, if this is your first time here and we're just meeting, my name is João Frigerio. I'm the founder of iWorkinSport, and well, thank you for being here with us. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. Let me know if this is your first time, if you're coming back, or mention as well if you have already participated in any of our events or not, or if you're planning to go to the Education Virtual Expo next week. And of course, if you're watching the replay, also leave the comments. We read all of them and we reply to all of them too. Right. So in addition to YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever you may be watching this, just know that we are also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, always as iWorkinSport. You can find us there too. So let me go now to our guests today. For me, these are very special guests. All are special guests, but this one, we're going to talk to representatives of the FIFA Master. I did that course many years ago, as you can see by my gray hair, but so many good friends there. So today I'll have the pleasure to talk to Dr. Kevin Tallec Marston. He's a research fellow and academic project manager at CIES, the International Center for Sports Studies, and FIFA Master academic coordinator. And also with Julian Smith, FIFA Master alumnus, and recently graduated in 2019, very good friend, and also been working a lot with the Alumni Association. I work close with him on that too. So let me get them to join me. Where are they? Here they are. Kevin, hello.
Hi, João.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I take it that you're in Neuchâtel.
I most definitely am, yes.
Very good, very good. Let me bring Julian in. Hello, Julian. How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you? It's good to see you.
Very well. In Portugal.
I'm in the Italian countryside right now. Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's
visiting some
correct.
family. Yeah, indeed. So you'll have to accept the rustic background here, but it's a very nice time of year to come to this part of the country.
Great.
Fair enough.
Listen, before we start with questions, maybe why don't you introduce yourselves a bit better? Maybe Kevin, tell us a bit. I mean, you've been involved in the FIFA Master for so many years, maybe even what you studied before, and then Julian can do the same.
Great, thank you, Joao. So as you said, I did the FIFA Master many, many years ago. I was one of the guinea pigs in the first few editions. Before that, I did a traditional liberal arts undergraduate degree in the United States, and then came to the FIFA Master in 2002, 2003. And after that, embarked on a very different path than most graduates from the program, like Julian and many others. Instead of going off and working in the grand world of international sport, I decided to stay in the university, never leave, do a PhD, and then turn into an academic and teacher and a researcher. So since about 2004, I've been working on the program, the FIFA Master, and a number of other educational programs. I think we'll talk about them a little bit later. And so I've been teaching, doing research, writing, and working on curriculum development for many of our programs here at CIES.
Great, thank you. Julian, what about you?
Sure, thanks, Joao, and thanks very much for the invitation to speak today as well. I'll try to be succinct with my background because there's a lot to say, as with many FIFA Master alumni. I think that's a common thread among the program. But as my accent will immediately inform you, I am American, but I am also Portuguese, so I'm a dual national. I studied international business administration for my undergraduate degree. And when I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my career, I knew because of my upbringing that I wanted to do something that was focused internationally. So something having to do with, the whole world, and also something having to do with numbers, because that was just something that I had an affinity towards. So I embarked on a career in finance, first working for a bank in Portugal for 3 years, and subsequently moving to New York City to work for a company called Moody's, which is a global ratings agency. There I started working I developed an interest in data analytics, again, thinking about numbers, and had a career there of 5 years, kind of moving up the ranks throughout the organization, managing teams, developing data analytics products, and working with new technologies at the time, like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Really enjoyed that part of my career and all the success and kind of additional responsibility that I attained over time. But there was a moment where I realized that initial calculation that I had developed for what I wanted to do with my career was missing something, and that was kind of a social or cultural component to the work that I was doing. I had always known about the FIFA Master throughout my whole career, and it was something that I aspired to kind of apply towards and graduate from. And I actually applied very early in my career and was given the response at the time that essentially you have the right profile, but perhaps not enough experience. So if this is something that you'd like to do in the future, reapply, and please, we'd love to consider you again. And that's exactly what I did. So after 7 or 8 years out in the working world, I reapplied to the FIFA Master. Did the whole program, which we'll speak much more about over the coming hour or so. And there's lots to say about that, but wrote my final project there in group on the subject of artificial intelligence in top tier football, which I think was quite well received by the industry and put me in touch with a lot of different, premier sporting organizations, particularly football, because that was the nature of our project. And that started a kind of new part of my career working in sports technology and innovation as a consultant. And that's what I do to this day. So there you go.
That's great. Great to have you here with us, Julian. Kevin, did you see that Julian said that he's known about the FIFA Masters since the beginning of his career? That tells us a bit apart where we stand, because when we started, the FIFA Master didn't exist.
There was no website.
Yeah. And anyway, we're gonna go to the questions. Just before we do that, I always like to give a shout out to people saying hi from all parts of the world. Actually, Rian here and Nyasha Kadenge. I don't know where you're talking from or watching from, so let us know. There's Otello James here. Greetings to all watching from Dakar. Happy to be here again. Yeah, he's been here with us this week. I'm more interested in the FIFA Master because of its pedagogical method and also offers scholarships. We're going to talk about that. There is Veronica Chube in Botswana. Great to have you with us. Jesus is also back here. He's in Rennes, France, not too far from you, I think, Kevin. Or maybe very far. I don't know exactly where that is in the map. I should know. Yamurai from Zimbabwe, sending good vibes. MJ3 was here with us yesterday as well from India. Oh, there's a good friend of ours here, Alvaro Lorente from Colombia. And Emiliano in Mexico City. And this round we'll close with Denis in Ukraine and Sophia in Egypt. Great. So nice that you're there. Prepare your questions if you want to know whatever you want to know about the FIFA Master. Kevin and Julian are here to answer those for you. So I will start, maybe Kevin, in a nutshell, what is the FIFA Master?
In a nutshell, the Master is an incredible academic and life journey over 10 very, very intense months that we will most definitely talk about, and Julian will be able to explain his more recent experience in that. But I think maybe to give a bit of a flavor and a taste of the Master, I think, Joao, you have a very short video clip that gives a bit of the feel and the energy for the FIFA Master life journey.
All right, let's play that then.
The FIFA Master takes its graduates on a unique journey to some of the most sport-oriented European countries in 3 distinguished universities that have come together to provide a one-year program combining top-class academic teaching and practical case studies supplemented by guest lecturers and field visits. Demonstrates the impact that the FIFA Master has in becoming a global leader in sports management education.
It is certainly the best training for the future life.
So I hope that gives a bit of the flavor and the energy. To go into a bit more detail, perhaps, the course really is divided into 4 parts, Joao. There are 3 taught modules where the students who come from all around the world, we'll talk about the student profiles in a little bit, but you start the year in Leicester in the UK, in a wonderfully multicultural city, which also had the joy of being crowned Premier League champions a few years ago. For the class that was there, it was quite an experience. So the first module is a module that is taught about the humanities of sport. So it covers everything from history to sociology to ethics and a number of current issues in sport. Then the class moves, so physically leaves the UK and goes to Italy, to Milan, the city of fashion and great coffee, and will then study at the Bocconi Business School, and which is a world-renowned business school, one of our excellent colleagues there. And they will work on everything around sport management. So that is covering finance, event management, human resources, organizational behavior, and a whole host of other management-related topics. And after 3 months in Milan, then the students will move to Switzerland in Neuchâtel, which is a small little quaint but beautiful city by a lake, which sits kind of in between Geneva and Basel or Zurich, for those of you who know a little bit of Swiss geography. And here in Neuchâtel, because that's where I'm based at CIES, the students will finish their taught module with the sports law and governance module. So that covers all areas of sports law, contracts, regulations, anti-doping, a number of different sport legal issues. And the final aspect of the course is a research part where students have to work closely. As Julian mentioned earlier, he talked about his project, which was a research project on artificial intelligence. And it was a really interesting project. And I remember working closely with you over the months, even preparing the ideas and working on that. So we can certainly talk about that at some point. But the last part of the course officially is a research paper that is done not individually, because that's something that we value very highly in the FIFA Master, is a group exercise. So students have to work in small groups over the course of the whole year, and they work on an original topic, which they then have to present and defend. They do original research, and they write a paper that is presented at the end of the year. So the course covers those three disciplines and tries to weave them together in the final project at the end. It's a mix of theoretical, it's a mix of practical. There are some top academic professors in their fields, and then there is an incredible number, I can't even remember how many, I think we had last year, we had over 100 different industry speakers. Generally, we run around that, which bring their own practical experience from their organizations, there's clubs, there's federations, their events, and they will talk about sports management from a practitioner's point of view. So that over the course of the 10 months, intense, a little over 10 months, provides a very strong basis on general understanding of sport, and then in the interdisciplinary aspects. So I think that hopefully provides a short but brief overview of the course itself from the organizer's perspective and the teacher's perspective. Maybe that's a bit different definition from what Julian will explain as how he would describe the master in a nutshell.
Julian, you want to complete in anything?
I suppose I can fill in the gaps from a recent alum's perspective, but I think Kevin described it quite thoroughly. If I were to put it in my own words, I would say the unique kind of benefit and nature of the FIFA Master as a program is the breadth and global nature of the course, not only in terms of the academic subject matter, but also the sporting disciplines covered, and the makeup of the class as well. So I think is a really important component. My edition was 28 students and 21 nationalities represented in that cohort. My final project group was myself, an American Portuguese, a Canadian Colombian, a Bosnian, and a Russian, all coming from different sporting expertise and career paths themselves. So yeah, that's where I would say is the great value of the course, in addition to all of the things that Kevin mentioned.
Great. Here we also have Amanda saying hi from Paris, José Luis in Brazil, and there's a Safia. Oops. Here she says she's CIES alumni. So Kevin, in fact, CIES has multiple courses. To make everything clear, can you maybe tell what is the differences between other CIES courses and the FIFA Master?
Absolutely. The FIFA Master, of course, is one program that we organize it at CIES with our partner universities. But it is one of others. So as you rightly say, we've got a fantastic international university network program, which Sophia, I see that you're a member of. Either I wasn't sure if you're a graduate or a current student, but what that program is it's 16 universities around the world with which we work very closely on elaborating a sports management program that is a more, let's say, a part-time shorter course for generally often for people who are either still working or looking for, can't take a full year off to do a full-time intensive program. So that program runs across the Americas, Africa, and we're also now in Asia and in Europe. So it covers countries all across the world. And so that's the International University Network. And one of the nice parts about that program is we've had a number of people come from that initial program and then, let's say, move on to the FIFA Master if a few years later, because they wanted to do a full-time intensive program. So aside from the International University Network, we also have a number of sports courses at the University of Neuchâtel. We have a sports law degree that CIES is very closely involved in, teaching courses also in geography, in sociology, and in management. I also teach over there. And then we have a growing and really interesting executive sector at CIES, which has been working very closely through FIFA with national associations around the world, doing executive education for staff members who work at national associations in the football world. So those courses started about 2-3 years ago in South America, and we are now organizing those in Africa and as well in Asia and Oceania.
All right. Cool. Thanks for clarifying that. So going back to the FIFA Master, that it is the program that will be featured at the Education Expo next week. So what is it that you look for in candidates for the program?
Well, I think Julian described himself quite well, which is a great way to describe candidates, because we want people with strong academic and professional backgrounds. We want people with a very broad international experience or exposure, at least. And then there's characteristics, personality traits. We're very, very, let's say, I would stress the importance of being open-minded and curious. No one who comes on the program with their, let's say, experience completely set and they just want to gain some specific knowledge and they're not willing to actually put anything into the course, well, we're probably not the course for you. So I would say, everyone looks for strong academics and good sports background, good sports knowledge, good sports experience, and professional experience as well. But I think one thing where we really insist on is trying to create a very coherent group of people every year. It's not just about individual students. We're also very interested in the team spirit. And so we're always looking for bringing people together who are going to contribute something to the class, who are going to contribute something to their edition, and then more widely to the alumni family much, much later on. As Julian can explain, currently on the alumni committee, perhaps, you can explain a little bit also how profiles from people in the class then contribute to the wider alumni group.
And Kevin, I think we're on the same wavelength, because I did want to contribute my own perspective on what you just said, because it absolutely rings true from a student's perspective as well. The contributions that the diverse backgrounds bring into the classroom are vitally important to the success of the course. I mean, bringing in those diverse opinions from different cultural backgrounds, from different professional backgrounds, and leading to really interesting, thought-provoking conversations about the state of sport and where it is, where it should go in the future. So that's of huge importance and contributes greatly to the student experience. And that's from an academic standpoint, but I would also say that contributes really to just like this journey that Kevin likes to refer to and mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation of the FIFA Master, which is, experiencing life together and experiencing different cultures and learning about different foods and kind of rituals from all over the world. It's really an enriching experience to be part of that community. I won't say it's always easy, because there's a lot to learn. It's a big world out there, and sometimes you make a misstep, but it's a learning experience as well. And I think that warmth that is created in the class of this very intense experience, again, as we alluded to earlier, really contributes to a really tight-knit cohort, and that also manifests itself in the alumni, which perhaps we can talk about a little bit later.
That's nice, but here Jesus wants to be more specific. What about the academic requires, the years of work experience, languages needed? Can you be more specific? What is also that is needed for someone to be, let's say, eligible to apply?
Of course. Thank you, Jesus, for the question. The academic requirements are quite standard across the table. We ask for a bachelor's degree in any discipline. So that means, as Julian said, you can come from a business background. Some people come from a law background. We have people who've come from psychology, engineering, social sciences. We've really covered every possible academic discipline. So any discipline, but a first level bachelor's degree at a university. So that means you have to complete, either, depending on your home country, a 3 or a 4 year course, depends on the country. And then in terms of professional experience, we don't have let's say a set fixed number calculation. It's really much more about the quality of the experience that you have. So some people, we've had students come onto the program who are fairly young, and even though, being 21 or 22 years old, which is quite rare, but who were able to work alongside during their studies or really accumulate an incredible amount of professional knowledge during their young career. So the professional experience is going to be working in an organization, full-time, part-time, working with, ideally, working already in a sport-related capacity. So we have a lot of people more and more who are working for a sports club or a sports organization or a sport event. So if I would say maybe for candidates who are out there listening, if you have not yet been involved in a sports organization or a sporting event, then that is really one of the things that we would require from you, from your application, to get past kind of the first initial selection procedures, is to really get involved and show us your experience. And that will allow you, from an academic perspective, once you're on the course, to make the connections between your practical experience and the academic teaching that's on the program.
If I could quickly just jump in to say, I'm a numbers tangible oriented guy. So to give an example of what that age range looks like, I was 31 when I did the course, and the ages on my edition ranged between 26 and 38, which I think is quite representative of most cohorts.
Thank you.
Small statistic, the overall average age generally over the last 10 years has been between 27 and 28 years old.
Okay, thank you. And Kevin, what's the application process?
The application process it began 3 weeks ago. We launched an online platform, which we use. All applications have to come in through the online platform. You create an account, you fill out your online application, and then you will be liaising with our admissions team here at CIES. And when I believe the deadline is the beginning of January. And once you have submitted your complete application, which includes filling out a standard application form, providing some references that are written by academic references and professional references, including a CV, all of those documents, and you'll have to send various administrative documents as well, a copy of passport, all of these things you'll find on the website. So you complete an application, you submit that before the beginning of January, and then from that point on, we move into our admission selection process, which goes from about January until April or so. And that is divided into several phases. There's an administrative filter, there's various admissions selection filters. And the key part, let's say, at the end of the admissions process is then we select anywhere from about 65 to 80 candidates where we really believe that those people have the background, the quality, and the interest to be in our program. And at that point, we interview them. And it's a difficult process, because we really do believe if you've gotten to the interview phase, you're good enough to be in this program, and we really want you. The challenge then is to find the right mix of people and the right mix, as Julian said, of experiences and perspectives, so that we don't have a course where everybody is exactly the same. What we want is to cultivate that diversity, to cultivate those different perspectives, because that's what will bring the richness to the life journey of the FIFA Master.
If I can additionally add something there, I think my own experience is representative of exactly what Kevin was mentioning, that people who make it to that phase are qualified to get on the course, but I had to apply again to be accepted. So I hear many students who have had that same experience, and I think it's encouraged to apply to the course multiple times if you're not accepted at the first outset, because it is quite competitive, and not being accepted doesn't necessarily mean that you're not eligible for the course. It just means that perhaps this wasn't the right makeup or the right year, but you should absolutely apply again.
Absolutely. I could just stress that point. We generally have anywhere from 10 to 20% of applicants who reapply every year from a prior application. We've had people interview 3 times before they were accepted, just because it wasn't necessarily the right time. So it's also all about the opportune moment. So don't be discouraged if you're not accepted on your first application.
Right. Thank you, guys. Talking a bit more about the course. It's not all inside the classroom, right? So you have several trips or guest lectures. Kevin, can you maybe tell us a bit more about that?
Absolutely. There is a core part of the program is the contact with the sporting industry, the sporting world. And not only do we bring people in to speak in the classroom, but we take the class out to the sports world. So that covers taking people on field visits, sometimes overnight visits as well, We've gone to all sorts of places, whether it's Wimbledon to the Olympic Park to Juventus is well, it's not so brand new anymore, but they're absolutely state-of-the-art facility. We've taken people to Ducati, to the San Siro, and then of course to big sporting federations in Switzerland, such as FIFA, the IOC, the International Basketball Federation, FIBA, and many of the other sporting organizations. So that is a key part of the learning experience, is to really, not just from a networking point of view, obviously there's networking that happens there, but it's also just learning from the people on site and seeing what the reality is working in these types of sports organizations.
Right. So I think my question to Julian is, since he graduated quite recently, I think was the last class that did not suffer with COVID. Julian, so then what were your favorite visits, or maybe guest speakers?
Oh boy. Yeah, well, Kevin mentioned that they are quite numerous, and that contributes to the intensity of the course, because you're going one day in the classroom, then to an overnight trip to Manchester or wherever it may be to experience all these different field visits. But, you know, I think for me, one of the most interesting ones was Wimbledon. Not only because, you know, being part of the FIFA master course, you would assume that there's a lot of football content, which is true. But at the end of the day, it's a global sports world that we operate in, and the FIFA master does an excellent job, in my opinion, of covering the breadth of sporting disciplines. But it wasn't only the fact that I was visiting Wimbledon, this iconic stadium, this iconic event, for the first time. It actually first helped me understand an opportunity that I didn't know existed in the sports industry that I would be interested in pursuing even further. And I would say that was the first step that led me to this career path, because Wimbledon has this partnership with IBM where they implement artificial intelligence and computer vision into a lot of the content that they produce, but also on the sporting side as well. And I just never known that that was even a possibility. So I think that's quite representative, not only of the benefit, but also the reason why the FIFA Master organizes these field visits.
Right. Thank you, Julian. I think you kind of answered a question or comment by Tanguy Koefik, saying hello from Portugal. Hello, Tanguy. Thanks for being with us. Does the FIFA Master offer a possibility to work in the sport industry? Is obvious, but not only in football or soccer specifically. So you kind of touched on that, but maybe you would like to stress that it's definitely not only football, right?
Yeah, let me take that one just as a member of the alumni community. I mean, Kevin is as well, I suppose. So you might be just as ready to answer this question, but it's really incredible to see the breadth of where our alumni are within the sporting industry. I mean, from the premier kind of global governing bodies like FIFA and the IOC, CAF, UEFA, the Paris 2024 Olympics, the IPC, but also premier kind of sporting organizations, whether it's FC Bayern Munich or City Football Group, the K-League, US Soccer Federation. Even outside of football, there's people in the Mercedes Formula One team, the Ladies PGA, the FEI, which is the Equestrian International Federation, Red Bull Sports, FIBA, and even in sport adjacent properties like Infront and CAA, Team Marketing, Sport Radar. So we really cover the whole gamut. And the only reason I know of all of those examples is because of how tight-knit our alumni community is, and we all keep in touch and kind of share our own experiences from different organizations within the sporting industry, and that's a really great benefit of this program as it lives on as alumni.
Thank you, Julian. I think you have a little connection problem there. I hope that will be fixed soon. But I do have so many other questions here, but I want to give some priority to people that are watching. And there's Yemurai Shamboko. Please let us know where you're watching from. But we talked about age just now, the average age, and he or she says that she's 36, judging that the average is 27, 28. Is she too old for it, Kevin?
No. Short answer is no. As we said, we certainly don't discriminate based on age on either end of the spectrum. The idea really is to have the best people at the best time in their life, and that they can bring and contribute the best that they can to the community that year, learn in the best way possible from their experience at that point. So, we've had people, and Julian mentioned in his edition, people who are in that age range as well. Every year we have people in in the mid and upper 30s. It's not a problem. We also have people who are younger than the 27, 28 age range. And that is one of the strengths of the course as well. Julian, maybe you want to say a word about just the interclass learning between the members of the class from that wide range of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. It manifests itself in two ways, I think. First of all, again, credit to the FIFA Master kind of application process, because the age isn't reflective of their ability to connect with other people. And I think that's really what the application kind of process does quite well, is making sure that these are people who understand different communities, different cultures, the global nature of the industry and the people that are working and represented in it. But then also, from a very kind of personal, social perspective, it's nice to have that age range, because you bring in, young kids who are super ambitious and have like a different take on the industry and what they've experienced in their university or their short careers. And then let's say the old heads, the people who are a little bit more experienced, who provide that father or motherly figure as well. That is certainly representative of my edition as well. So shout out to you, Papa G.
Great. Listen, I know that Kevin has another like 10 minutes only with us, and Julian will stay a bit longer. So I do have a few questions prepared, but there are a few questions also arriving. At the moment, I'm going to target them all to Kevin. So try to be as fast as possible, because there's some, people saying here, like Veronica, for instance, Chuba says, she got a BA Sports Recreation Management, Business Entrepreneurship, postgrad in Enterprise Risk Management, MSc Leadership and Change Management. That's a lot. And attended the FIFA Olympics Solidarity. Do I qualify? Can she apply for that?
Thank you, Veronica. That's quite an impressive CV already. I think on paper, from what you've written there, obviously you do fulfill the base academic criteria. Yes. Right.
And she says she's 46, but they already said that age is not a factor. So Yamurai is from Zimbabwe. She's a lady. Thanks for watching. So I'm going to ask you about the fact of the course taking place in 3 different countries, right? I think it's me, like doing the course, I thought it was awesome, but to take into account that poses some logistic challenges, especially now in these times that we're now with the traveling issues, it may turn the course a bit more expensive. Is that a good thing happening in 3 places? And if so, why?
Well, maybe I'll just answer by saying that at the start of the program, before it was actually launched, there was a long debate. It was before my time, but there was a long debate as to what would be the best benefit, whether the staff would move or the students. And there was a real debate among the universities and CIES at the time, thinking, what would really be the best and most original experience? And it was decided at the time, and I think there is no looking back since, which is that there is no doubt that the most beneficial experience is when the student body is moving from one country to the next. I know it is a logistical challenge, and certainly the last 2 editions with COVID has not been easy. But I would like to stress, for those of us who have memory of the first 5, 6 editions, Joao, you'll remember, the situation travel-wise and logistically was not necessarily a lot easier then. This was a time before EasyJet, a time before mobile phones, a time before Facebook. So the whole idea of the logistical challenge of moving regularly to another place is without a doubt an obstacle, but I think it is one of the key learning aspects to the course, and just having to adapt to a new environment, whether it is a university, a city, a language. Obviously, the course is completely taught in English, But for people who are not native English speakers, initially coming to Leicester can be a bit of a challenge. For those people who don't speak Italian, going to Italy is, it's another foreign country. Same thing coming to Switzerland. Right. And that prepares you extremely well to work in the international sporting environment. And I think maybe, Julian, you should say a word about that.
I'll elaborate on it later.
In fact,
please.
Before we go to Julian, I'm just, as he likes to say, I'm very cognizant of your time, Kevin. So I will get back to that. Julian, I want to know your impression as a student of the challenges and maybe benefits of doing in 3 countries. And also I'm going to ask you about the cost of living in those 3 places as well. For people that are interested, you will be able to talk about that. So I'll get back to you, but I want to, before Kevin leaves, especially because there's some questions that have to do with the tuition fee, for instance, or scholarships. How can people apply for that? So maybe, Kevin, before you leave, we can cover those things. Let's start with the tuition fee. I think that's a very straightforward. And then what are the supports that applicants can have?
Absolutely. Good question on the tuition fee. Again, all of this administrative information is all available on the website. But very quickly, the tuition fee is 25,000 Swiss francs. That covers all the registration at the different universities, all of the participation in the course. It does not cover living expenses or travel expenses. So if you're coming from the other side of the world, which in most cases is definitely the situation for many students, you have to be planning on your travel budget. You've got to be planning also on a living budget for housing and food during the year. Generally, we've estimated that to be around 20 to 25,000 Swiss francs. Some people can manage doing it in a little bit less. Some people have a little bit more, but that is again an average in terms of cost of living for the year experience. So that covers tuition fee, cost of living, I think, and scholarships. Sorry, that was the other point you mentioned.
Oh yeah, here Kosh here is asking more insights about scholarship, please.
Well, Kosh, you've not missed it yet. Don't worry, we haven't gotten there. The scholarship question is also a very important one. It's something where we've been trying very, very hard these last few years to increase the number of scholarships in order to help more people. We have a number of scholarships. Rarely, I would say, do we award scholarships entirely. So what we have a tendency to do in these last few years is to break scholarships up into smaller amounts so that we can help people with partial financial assistance. And we've seen that actually allows us to help more students. So in the last 2 years, we've been able to provide scholarship assistance in some form, whether it is, a smaller scholarship of 5,000 for tuition fees or all the way up until full tuition fees. But that we've been able to support almost half of the students who come on the program. And that's been a great help to students. So there is scholarships available. I would just say one thing, there is all scholarships are available for any candidate, except we have 2 scholarships which are generally reserved for African nationals. So that's nationals, meaning citizen, you don't have to be a resident, but you have to have an African passport. That is part of the wonderful World Cup Legacy project from 2020 that FIFA has supported. And we're very grateful for that support. And the other scholarships are for graduates of, I mentioned the CIES International University Network at the beginning of the session. We have anyone who graduates successfully from that program, from any of the 16 current programs, or who did one of the university courses from a partner who maybe isn't still in the network today. You are eligible for a cost of living and scholarship fees as well.
Great, thank you, Kevin. I have one more for you before you go. Just also to mention that Erica says hi to you and Julian, and she loves your scarf.
Thanks, Erica.
And she also sends a message to everyone not to forget to like this video, and if you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel. Kevin, about so people tend to think that if they do the FIFA Master, they ask, does that guarantee a job or at least an internship at FIFA?
Does it guarantee a job? The short answer is no, because we can't be responsible necessarily for everyone else's individual pathways. I think one of the important things to mention is that when people come onto the course, a lot of students have sometimes a very clear idea. This is what I want to do. This is what I've thought about. And what they realize through the course of the FIFA Master journey is that it opens their eyes and opens, and I'm sure Julian will have plenty to say about this afterwards, is it really opens your mind. And I think that's it's the tagline for one of the FIFA Master videos, open your mind, but we really believe in that. And I think the key point there, and I'll come back to the question of internships and jobs, is that when you come onto the Master, you realize that there isn't just getting an internship at FIFA. There are so many opportunities in the industry. And what we do, rather than try to arrange something specific for each person at the beginning of the year, because we know that everyone has their own unique background, their own unique career path, is to rather work in a long-term perspective and say, look, we're going to build some career support services into the course. We are going to have different soft skills training, interview training, CV preparation work that helps people for their entire career. There's a mentorship program that I'm sure that Julian will mention in more detail that is closely linked to the alumni. So there's a whole process of getting people through the year to graduation. What happens at that point? At graduation, there are, yes, a number of internships that are essentially guaranteed, meaning that we have relationships with many different sports organizations, which provide a set number. It ranges sometimes from year to year of internships or jobs with events and with their organizations. And students can interview for those, and those are, generally speaking, exclusively reserved for the FIFA Master. So that means that obviously your chances of getting one of those positions is very, very high. But I would say that in part, I think that is also helped and boosted. We didn't mention it before, but the fact that we've been able to finish in the top of the sport business rankings for these last, since 2012, as essentially the #1 European program and in the top 3 or top 5 in the world for the last almost 10 years, has really helped our reputation in the industry. And I think that is a testament. And what that does is it opens a number of opportunities with sports organizations who actually come to us and say, look, this is what we're looking for. And we're able to say, here's our class, your choice. So what we do is facilitate the access to the market through a number of, yes, guaranteed spots, but that doesn't mean guaranteed for an individual person. I think that's maybe the clear distinction to make.
That's great, Kevin. Thank you so much. Know that you have to go there, so you know you answered, I think, the question as well of Abiyan Singal. Sorry if I killed your name, but I hope that I said it okay. Also, Safia here, I think you already mentioned it, but yes, maybe she asked about if there's good chance for scholarships for the students of the CIES alumni. And there is, right, special offer to them. So I think with this, Kevin, I should say thank you for participation. I know that you have to go. Thank you for being here, and we will continue with Julian.
Muito obrigado. Thank you so much. And thanks for tuning in, and we look forward for your applications in the future.
And see you next week at the Education Expo.
Yes, thank you, Joel.
All right.
Bye-bye, Julian.
Bye,
Julian, now I think we're not rushing with time anymore. There's so many comments here. We're going to get to some of them, but I think we can go back to that point of the traveling, about the course taking place in 3 different countries. And maybe you can share your experience as a student, if that's a hustle, you know, if it poses too many problems, of if that's good for you, if you liked it. And then mention as well, Kevin touched on the price, the cost of living, but maybe you can give some advice.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. But now that the teachers are away, maybe we can get to some of the real experience about being a FIFA Master student. Obviously, this will be replayed, but I'm happy to address any kind of serious personal questions about the FIFA Master student experience, and especially about the alumni experience, which I'd love to touch on. But going back to the experience of being in 3 different countries, again, I'll repeat some of what Kevin said, that it is a really key asset of being part of the program, not only because you get to live in these different countries, but also experience sport in these different parts of the world, and then also experience the 3 different universities and the different competencies that they offer. From the different classroom experience to the different type of interaction that you have with the different sporting organizations, it's really a huge value add to the whole experience. Now, with all that benefit, as we've alluded to, there is a huge logistical challenge as well, not only because of different evolutions of how things work within the world and getting visas, all these kind of things, but then also kind of finding an apartment in all these different cities and figuring out how you're going to pay your way through the entire year. What tends to happen a lot is Leicester and Milan are relatively affordable cities, and Switzerland is quite an expensive country to be in. So you really need to budget your finances accordingly and prepare in advance. But I don't think any FIFA Master alumnus, anyone who's graduated from the program, will say anything negative about that experience. It is challenging, but it adds to the whole experience, and a lot of people cherish that part of the program, absolutely.
Great, Julian. Before I go back to some of my questions, I'm trying to read here the questions sent by some of them. Emiliano here asks, in the criteria for applying, you need to have an excellent command of English. That's what Kevin said. What does demonstrates a level of proficiency mean? You go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think all of the criteria, especially for non-native English speakers, is available on the website. So I'd refer you there for the specific application criteria. But again, from the student experience, I think what is most important to relay is that, we need to have one language that we all speak in, and it's imperative to the success of the course and the experience of all the students that you're able to eloquently kind of speak about your experience or ask questions or participate in the dialogue. So it is important to have quite a high level of English in order to get the most out of the program, not only as a participant yourself, but also for your colleagues as well. So please do check the application website for the specific criteria, but I will say that it's another very important component of the course.
Emiliano, being a non-native English speaker, someone that's applied for sort of the course back in the day, I know that it was the TOEFL and some equivalent diplomas or certifications that they would require. But sometimes if you can demonstrate as well that you have been working in an English environment for so many ways, that could be accounted for as well. But as Julian said, maybe refer to the site or go to the event, to the Education Expo next week, so you can talk to the admissions team directly. And if you're in Mexico, we're going to do one the week after on the 3rd of November at your time zone. So good for you, more around this time. So,
by the way, if I could just add a quick anecdote there, I was in Mexico 2 weeks ago, which probably speaks to why I'm a little bit of a darker skin tone than I was before I left, but that was actually for the wedding of a FIFA Master alumnus. So that really speaks to the tight-knit, close community that we've all developed. And it was a wonderful time. First time in Mexico, and I will absolutely be back.
That's great. Julian, so maybe let's talk about typically what does an alumni of or alumnus of the FIFA Master go on to do after the program? You already mentioned more or less where they work, but it's not only federations, or can you maybe touch on that again?
Yeah, as I kind of alluded to throughout the whole alumni community, we're really all over the place. I think the statistic is that 88% of our alumni are currently working in sport in 80 different countries all over the world. So that we have alumni, 600 alumni who have graduated from the course, just about, and 110 nationalities of those alumni, and living in 80 different countries, with 88% working in sport. And that means that they're working either within kind of directly on the pitch, on the field, sporting jobs, so at sporting leagues or football clubs or international federations, or also sport adjacent roles, which are agencies or marketing firms or consultants or law or lawyers. And then we have a contingent who are also working outside of sport as well, but they can always remain close to the sporting industry through the alumni community that we've created. So really, there's no specific answer. I know a lot of similar programs to us kind of offer quite a direct path towards the sporting industry, but part of the benefit of the course, and I think really a valuable asset of the program going into the sporting industry, is this breadth of knowledge of knowing about sport all over the world, different types of sports all over the world.
Right. There's a message here from Farid Abazov saying that please answer my questions. So sorry, Farid, I went back there. I missed a few of them. Don't know if Julian will be able to answer now, but I'll ask him. If not, we'll see what we do. Let's say Farid says applied at last 2 years, but unfortunately wasn't invited for the interview session. So he has 2 master's science degree from Italy and international experience for almost 7 years. From your experience, what should I do to get admitted to the course, or at least for an interview? Do you have any advice, Julian?
Well, I wish I had the answer to that question, but unfortunately there is no answer to that question. And as Kevin alluded to, and I think, again, we've seen throughout several editions of the course, is that there's no real set formula to gain admission. And it's about how you kind of align with the other applicants of the course and where your experience would fit with everyone else's. So perhaps 1 year you are an outstanding fit, and others perhaps you're not. But all I can say is to encourage you to keep applying. It sounds like you've got kind of the minimum requirements, the prerequisites to be a part of the course, which is this international experience and an international outlook. Having some touch points to the sporting industry is always beneficial as well, just to give you a little bit of perspective to bring into the course. Now, I did not have any experience working within the sporting industry, but I volunteered at events and had friends who had been working in the industry before, who gave me a little bit of insight into what it's like to work in the sporting industry. So it's important, to kind of answer your question in the reverse, it's important not to apply to this course because you're a sports fan. If that were the case, we would really not be contributing to the course or to the industry as a whole. So I think understanding some of the perspectives, some of the dynamics, what it's like to work within the international sporting industry, where you have to consider the interests of various stakeholders all over the world, can be really beneficial. So I'd really say, don't just rely on your experience, but proactively seek out more touch points to the sporting industry if you want to kind of understand better what you could potentially be getting into.
Yeah, definitely. It's really difficult to talk in one, case by case. So what I would say, take the advantage, go there to the event. You'll be able to talk to the admissions team personally in a video call. So perhaps they could give you some pointers if they see your CV. But as Julian said, sometimes it's really difficult for us to understand. Sometimes it has to do not with your application, but other people that apply, and then they simply go and select one. And there are cases like you don't know why you were not called, and then you have people like me who don't know why I was called. Right? I think I had what it took, but not more than many other people that didn't. Sometimes those things can be subjective. But do that. If you talk to the admissions team directly, maybe you have nicer, insights on how to do your application for the next time. Let me go to, there's a few more questions here. Well, there's many actually, so I'm a bit lost. So while, excuse me, Julian, while I go and look at other comments and questions, what I'm going to ask you is, so the Master has a reputation of having a very strong alumni association. You now are actually the presidents of the Alumni Association as well. So how does that impact the students doing the FIFA Master?
Well, there's a lot that we try to do as an alumni community to kind of develop and strengthen our own network, of graduates of the FIFA Master program, but also to continually support the strength of the program. So I'll touch on the latter first. To continue to help the strength of the program, I think the marquee kind of thing that the alumni community does is to run a mentorship program. And essentially the way that works is different representatives of the alumni community will say that they're interested in kind of helping a current student understand the nature of the course and know what they're getting into, but then also give them some perspective on different opportunities that exist within the industry. This is something that is entirely run by the Alumni Association and again is in support of the FIFA Master Program, the 3 partner universities in CIES, and I think is continuously well received as a means to help support the program. As I said, that mentorship program always gets a lot of interest, always gets really good feedback, and we're always trying to strengthen that. In terms of our own community of the alumni, we do a lot of work. Well, I think that, let me step back first to say that it's important to mention that as an alumni community, we're organized as an association. So there is a body that actually represents the alumni who have graduated from the FIFA Master Program. That body is then kind of organized as an entity by what we refer to as the FIFA Master Alumni Committee, who essentially represents the alumni community and makes decisions and does a lot of things on behalf of developing and growing the strength of that community. So that kind of can be categorized into several different facets. We do a lot of events, both internal and external events, from attending industry conferences. I know CIES and the FIFA Master alumni were present at the recently held World Football Summit in Madrid, but we do a lot of internal programming as well, whether it's world gatherings of alumni from all over the world coming to one central location, or even virtual events that we've hosted internally or externally. During the pandemic, we held a series of webinars to, again, kind of keep our community close and engaged with each other. But also external events digitally. So there's currently a FIFA Master alumni organized webinar happening for our Latin America audience, which I would point everyone to the FIFA Master YouTube page to go see, not only to practice your Spanish, but to understand a lot of the dynamics of what's happening in the sports world over there. So I hope that gives you a little bit of flavor as well about our alumni community.
That's great, Julian. Thank you so much. We passed already the hour mark, but there are a few more comments and questions here. So if you can stay a little longer, we're going to address those. So Farid actually liked your suggestion and feedback. Nice, Farid. I hope to see you at the event next week. And MJ3, hi, Julian. Can you explain a bit about the research that we are supposed to do as part of the course, like how it goes and how that works?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Kevin already introduced it, and a big part of the FIFA Master Program is doing this final project, and that's, you're given a lot of kind of let's say baseline information about what that project will be, but it's really up to you and your group members to decide what the topic will be, how you want to go about researching it. And eventually how you present that not only in a written paper, but also a live presentation that's done at the end of all 3 modules in Neuchâtel. So it starts quite early in the course, the whole kind of conceptualization of this final project. You are assigned a group by the organizers of the course. So the FIFA Master will assign you a group, and that's to make sure that everybody is represented with a diverse kind of group who has different people from different parts of the world, from different experiences. And then that group will get together and start thinking, okay, what are the different ideas that we wanted to do? I will forever say that in spite of my previous experience working within artificial intelligence, I was not the person to suggest that as our final project. But again, this is another really big benefit of the FIFA Master course, is that with that diverse set of backgrounds, everyone can kind of contribute their own experience. And I think to a certain degree, my group members wanted to understand about my experience and how it could contribute into our final project. So the conceptualization happens of what your group final project topic will be over the first couple of months. And then you go about designing the research of how you'd like to go about that project, whether it's going to be firsthand research or secondary research, if you want to do interviews, you know, however you want to go about coming up with this thesis and writing the paper. An important point to mention that I neglected to do is, in addition to having an assigned group, you also have an assigned academic advisor who will give you all of kind of the academic tidbits and guidelines that you need to fulfill like a strong, good research project. And they support you throughout the life of the course and until you're ready to present the final project in Neuchâtel. So I gave you a lot of information there, but I hope it gives you a little bit of flavor to what that dynamic is like as well.
Thank you, Julian. Mafi Toloi here. Everyone says he worked as a consultant, who has a pilot license, and for someone who has a pilot license and actually 7 events for role players like Red Bull. So he's got some experience in event management. Can event experience outweigh qualifications? I presume that he's talking about academics when applying. What are your views on that, Julian?
Well, I'm certainly not the best person to address that question, but what I can say is there are kind of prerequisites of things that are required to apply, and that is, again, to create a baseline of experience within everyone who's participating in the course. And that's really fundamental to creating a strong group dynamic and classroom and out of classroom experience, as a matter of fact. But aside from that, I don't think there's any specific kind of profiles that are required in order to be a part of the course. I mean, in my edition, we had people who had already completed postgraduate degrees in other fields of study, people who had just recently completed their undergraduate course and had a breadth of experience in different industries, in different job types, in different leadership roles, you know, traditional and non-traditional, throughout their own experience. So it's really hard to kind of provide you with a formula that will get you accepted into the FIFA Master. But all I can say is if you meet the prerequisites, definitely apply and you know, join the event next week as well if you want a little bit more insight into what would be a good application.
Will you be there, Julian, at the event?
Well, as is very typical of people working in the sports industry, I can't necessarily commit my time given the other commitments that I have, but I will endeavor to be there, absolutely, especially given the virtual nature. It makes things a lot easier.
Cool. I think there's just a couple more. One from Vinicius Almeida. He's basically asking, he wrote in Portuguese here, so I know that you're Portuguese, you could read it, but is asking about how the course is taught. Is it more focused in research, or is it more focused in practical work aimed at the market? So it's more academic or it's more practical?
Well, let me first say viva meu amigo, who's writing in Portuguese, but I will answer in English. And let me interpret your question a little bit differently to give you a little bit more of a full answer, because I think when you talk about what you learn from this course, there is the academic study. So you have lectures, and a full curriculum that is presented to you before each module, so you have a good understanding of what your courses will be on. Those lectures will be subsequently followed by exams that will test kind of your understanding and knowledge of the different concepts presented. And that's quite a traditional kind of school academic experience. Furthermore, as Kevin alluded to, there's a lot of programming as a part of the course that includes things like guest lectures, so different people from within the industry, and that includes very high profile speakers, both from inside the FIFA Master alumni and outside the FIFA Master alumni, who really give you some in-depth insight into their experience. So that kind of practical real world experience, in addition to kind of the theory and academic study, which combine quite well. So, you can already see that with the amount of programming that I've described, you're already experiencing quite a full day. And then you also need to add into the fact that, you've got this research component, which you need to kind of self-discipline in a self-disciplined manner, continue to do throughout the life of the course until its conclusion in the summer in Neuchâtel. And it's also important, as I was saying to the current edition recently, that, it's as important to get as immersed into the curriculum of the FIFA Master as it is outside of the curriculum of the FIFA Master. The amount that I learned from going to dinner with different colleagues or talking about different issues outside of the classroom really helped kind of enrich my understanding and appreciation and knowledge for just the vast global nature, both geographically and from a sporting discipline perspective, of this industry that we're all striving to work in. So again, there is kind of the formal learning, but also a lot of informal learning that is a really important part of this course, and continues to this day as a FIFA Master alum as well.
Great, Julian. Thank you for that. So I think I'm going to go to a last one from Marcelo. Is it possible with the FIFA Master to get an HR orientation, especially in recruiting? He also reminds us that now this year, 2021, we celebrated the we as an alumnus of the course as well, the 20th anniversary of the graduation of the first year that graduated in 2001. But talking about the HR orientation, can you talk a little about that before we go?
Yeah, so there's no specific kind of HR components to the curriculum. Is that the question that he's asking, João?
He's asking about, let me go back to the comments.
Well, I can answer as I thought, but yeah, there's no particular HR curriculum.
Is it possible with the FIFA Master to get an HR orientation, especially in recruiting?
Right. So there's no HR part of the course, but that being said, we have a lot of programming in the course dedicated to speaking with different recruiters throughout the industry. So we have relationships with, obviously being the FIFA Master, it's quite a high profile course that's been in existence for 20 years and received all sorts of accolades in that time, as Kevin alluded to earlier. So it's quite a high profile course that a lot of people want to be associated with within the industry. So that means that we have the benefit of having recruiters come to us and say, we'd like to take a look at your course or speak with the current edition and understand what the profiles are like. So there are recruiters who come to the course from different sporting organizations throughout the world. And also a lot that the FIFA Master and the alumni, as a matter of fact, do in terms of career development and support, whether it's helping understand what a strong CV will look like from a recruiter's perspective in the sporting industry, to understanding how to interview in this kind of context as well. So that is another very useful part of the course. And again, I think everyone's breadth of experience participating as a student will also provided a lot of insight as well as to different global components of how to get jobs in different parts of the world, both from a recruiting perspective, but then also from like a networking and career development perspective. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that was actually Marcelo just helped me out. So I identified this question by Mr. Komney in Greece, by the way. It was actually sent earlier on. As I said, there were too many questions here today. Well, never too many. There were many. So thanks for that. We're way past the hour. I hope that everybody found this useful. I know that there are more questions out there. And this is the reason why we organize the Education Expo, is actually to give the opportunity for people to go and connect with alumni, that they can speak face-to-face with them, with the video calls, and with the representatives of each course there as well. So I want to invite everyone to go there. Again, it's free to attend. There is a link in the description. And hopefully, Julian, hopefully we'll see you there. If not, we'll definitely be in touch. But I want to thank you for being here with us too.
I will definitely endeavor to be there. It was a pleasure. Thanks for all the great questions, and I hope this session was informative. And yeah, we'll see each other in Portugal soon, hopefully, João.
All right, don't go anywhere, Julian. Stay there with me. I just want to say again, bye to everyone. Thank you for being with us. Tomorrow we have a session that was canceled or postponed from the Johan Cruyff Institute that was supposed to have happened on Tuesday, but one of the participants wasn't feeling so good, so we postponed it for tomorrow. So hopefully we'll see you there again. And next week, see you at the Education Virtual Expo. So bye-bye, everyone. See you soon. Be safe. Ciao, ciao.